Art is not how much you can control things, it's the ability to relinquish control. Like art is never done. It's when am I okay with not working on it anymore?
Letting go is hard, especially as an artist, in any medium. And if you're an artist who feels differently, I envy you. As a perfectionist, I suffer from paralysis by my own doing. And you know what that sounds like? Excuses. I'm self-aware enough to know it doesn't have to be this way. But even the best of us struggle with loosening our grip on the things we hold dear. When sometimes in reality, the only thing we're holding is ourselves back. But the homie has some thoughts on the subject. Rizaldy, self-taught, multi-hyphenated artist, articulate thinker, jiu-jitsu practitioner, grapples with letting go, with fear, and with embodying the life you want. In a conversation we had in his studio, as he brought some new works to life.
Well, the light is good today. Let's do this. Probably enough. I guess start high.
When do you think a painting comes alive?
That's a really good question. I think when there is any recognizable emotion from it. I mean, that's what art is for, right? So expression. I think that like I've made plenty of pieces that were highly rendered, thoroughly composed, and they still feel lifeless. I think it's an emotional thing. And maybe that's why like you can make something with just, half the amount of strokes that you usually would, and it has more life than your other works. I think that's where I'm getting to these days is, well, asking myself, what does it really matter? It could look perfect, it could look real, quote unquote real, but what's real? The goal of realism was always to like mimic life. But it's weird how you lose that, or you're not able to achieve that in certain ways, like focusing too much on like realism. No, that's a very interesting question. When does it come to life? And like, is that the time to let it go? Like as soon as it comes to life.
You could chase too much realism and then it just
and then you kill it. Yeah. Or maybe it was alive in earlier stages and you killed it. Yeah. That is the reality of things. It's a very frustrating reality. And it's like, why? If it says what I wanted to say, then why keep working on it?
So what are your thoughts on letting go? Like, has it gotten easier or?
Yeah, I would say like the more I paint, I guess the more I know with what I'm happy with. And so like I question myself less in terms of like whether I am okay or not with letting it go. Also think that like not every piece has the same like purpose or impact. I mean, I know that's like a sort of like a forever journey, like when to let things go.
You think it speaks to you, like the painting will tell you when it's time?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at things, because I think that was my problem before, was like I was letting my reference and like my pre-made decisions determine how much something should be worked on. It's sort of like imprisoning in a way. sort of not why I started doing this in the first place. You know, like I need to listen more, you know, listen more to the work. That's very difficult when I'm trying to achieve something.
Do you feel like the higher power telling you, like an intuition thing?
I think that's what's necessary, is intuition and feeling. You know, like some recent paintings I made, they're very rendered, highly rendered. I think I was focusing like on craftsmanship rather than myself. But yeah, I don't know. I think that the way that I would, I guess, speak about those things is like I was like working out of fear before. You know, I was like afraid it wasn't going to be good enough, real enough, sharp enough, clear enough. Maybe I've just changed my goals.
Would you say the opposite here, you're creating more in love?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm creating out of like, you know, the joy of creating things. I think before I was painting to be somebody, maybe get somewhere, be praised or recognized, or you know, I know most artists want to be revered, and that's totally understandable. But I think within the act, within the creation, you can't really, like, your work is not going to be good if you're focused on anything but creating, making for the sake of making. Maybe it's like a test of honesty, and without that, we as humans just recognize not the best work because of that. You know, there's other, I don't know what to call them, other agendas. Yeah, I think it's, I mean, why do anything if we don't understand why we're doing it? Like, are we living, or are we trying not to die? And I think that, like, if you don't really know why, like, I was making things trying not to die. You know, I'm making things because I need money. You know, I need to live. I need to support myself. And yeah, and I think that it's not a horrible thing, but I don't think my best work is going to come from those emotions. Why spend time like with fear? I don't know, could we really say that fear is like a waste of time? I mean, outside of like not dying, what good is fear? You know, it always stops us from doing the things that we are interested in. Or
do you need fear, like a healthy amount of it, to know maybe it's like you feel scared to do something, maybe that's your sign that you need to do these things?
I think that obviously being aware of the things that we're afraid of, and like actual dangers, and not making reckless decisions. But I think maybe what I mean is like letting fear dictate the decisions that you make. You know, because even though I can say that now, it's like, well, I mean, there's obviously a lot of things in my life that I make those decisions out of fear. And I would hope that I could let go of those things over time. What would be a healthy amount of fear is, I guess, what I would ask. Regardless, like, there's only really one way to deal with fear so that you don't have to deal with it again, and that's confrontation.
Because I'm trying to not let fear dictate the things I do or not do. But I'm trying to let go of, like, nothing's ever going to be perfect. Can't always be on point.
Right. It sounds like the things that we're afraid of have to do with shame. And pride and shame exist on the same spectrum. You know, if you're proud of like winning in fights by knockout, when you get knocked out, you're probably gonna feel a lot of shame. I don't think pride is necessarily like a bad thing, but I feel like when I see prideful people, they carry a lot of shame. It's like a balancing act. And usually we don't want to feel shame, so we become very prideful. So I wonder if we can let go of pride, then we wouldn't be scared of.
It's your martial arts and your paintings, or like,
yeah, 100%. There's a phrase that my coaches at my old jiu-jitsu school would always say, how you do one thing is how you do everything. I think that really resonates with me. I would say where I find that really true is how I learn things. How I learn one thing is how I prefer to learn everything. Yeah, I guess maybe even with practice as well, it's all connected. I think that I wouldn't be the painter I am if I didn't do jiu-jitsu, and vice versa. I wouldn't be the martial artist that I am if I didn't, do other things that require like lots of patience.
How'd you find your style?
Well, when I first started, I was doing like abstract portraits with no reference, I just wanted to like have freedom. I did go as far as like starting to do like abstract work, like formless. I believe that like painting feelings or the way that I felt was like the most honest way for me to communicate things. But then I started working in a tattoo shop. The skills that all the artists had in there, very, very inspiring. And I learned a lot of technique and method in the shop. And I think that maybe I'm at a point now where it's like all just blending together. But that's very interesting that you asked that, because like I don't feel like I have a style. It's just like things that I do. Like I always think about, you ever hear that like concept of like panning out? If you took two groups of people, take like judo practitioners and then jiu-jitsu practitioners, both grapplers, and you put them side by side and you're like, oh, they're so different. These guys really like to stand up and these guys really like to do groundwork. And then, you pan out and you add wrestlers in there. And you're like, oh, well, the judo and jiu-jitsu guys wear gis and these guys don't, right? So they're different. And you pan out more and you're like, okay, now you throw cyclists in there. And you're like, well, all these guys do martial arts and these guys ride bicycles. And you pan out and you put an accountant in there. And you're like, oh, well, these guys all do sports and these people don't. So it's like, I think that eventually, no matter what I do, you just pound out far enough and it's like, oh, that's all the same shit, Just even doing these seemingly very different styles or techniques or methods.
Connected.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I haven't panned out far enough, but I also feel the same. I'm like, I feel like I don't have a style, but people tell me that I do have a style.
Yeah.
But I guess it's hard to see from the inside sometimes, or maybe you're just
right.
Like, so.
Well, you're just doing what you're doing.
Yeah, you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah. But I think that like a lot of style is like not choice. It's just, I don't know, it's just how people view us.
Things like you've learned, like you're a collection, a mosaic of the things you've experienced, and it just like comes out of you. I feel like it's just.
Yeah, I think that taste and like, I don't know what the word would be, like not desire, but like whatever you admire or interested in, that is definitely a part of style. But I also think that what goes into style is ability. And the only thing that I really care to make sure of, whether it's my work or jiu-jitsu, is that my style is not too based off of an inability. So it's like, I don't want to be an abstract painter because I can't paint figurative things, or I can't paint like, the images in my head. That's how I would never want to work. Is style conscious choice? I had this conversation with one of my mentors, my gallerists. I'm not having an argument with them, but I was like, dude, I want to paint differently. I want to paint looser and bigger. What do you think about that? And he's like, well, it sounds like you're making a conscious choice to change your style. How long have you done what you're doing now? And I think at the time it had only been like a year. And he's like, do you feel like you've exhausted everything with this, like with these methods, with these techniques? And I hadn't. And he's like, dude, your style will change, but it will be like not up to you. And eventually it did get looser and I did care less about the other things. But I think that for me to like jump ship like that is not how style is really achieved. It'd probably be very short-lived, and then I'd want to jump ship again to something else.
And then you never find your style.
Yep, and then I'm never me. Maybe we want to make a conscious choice because we're concerned about certain things. Or maybe that's like a I can't in our heads. I can't do this, so I choose to do this. I used to say that about painting. I was saying that like I did too much drugs And so I don't have the photographic memory that I used to have, which is true. But I mean, if I really wanted to paint, I could. I just can't do it that way anymore. But it was very much like I can't. I quote unquote chose photography. But really, what I wanted to do was this the entire time. I don't know, it's like victim mentality or...
I don't know if I had it like that, but I was wanting to be a DP.
Okay.
I was like, moved to LA by myself.
Uh-huh.
Didn't know nobody. I was like, well, I can't like shoot things. I think I'm just gonna go with photography because it's just like more accessible and I didn't have to rely on anybody.
Right.
I was still working with framing and like composition.
Right. But you're doing video now, right?
I'm doing video now.
Yeah.
Just playing like I can do my own shit.
Well, it's like when I was trying to direct, I would tell my friends like, yeah, one day I'm gonna be a director. And they're like, what? They're like, what do you mean? Just direct now. I'm like, no, but I can't though. I gotta work my way up. And they're like, what are you talking about? Directors direct. It's not some label or position. That's what they do. That's why they have the title. You know, there's this argument with artists. It's like, well, just because you haven't painted in 5 years, you're still an artist. And I'm like, nah.
There's so many arguments online. Things like, I saw a video the other day. It's like, whatever you want to be, you're it right now. Like, don't wait to be the painter. Don't wait to be the DP.
Right. Do you think that?
I think that's just like a good like mind perspective.
Yeah.
Sometimes like things that hold you back. It's like you don't think you're good enough.
Right. Huh, that's interesting. I have to think about that. But I think as a motivational thing, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, to just like embody what you want to become. Do the things that you say you want to be. How you want your life to be, you probably have to start living it that way for it to be that.
Yeah.
Someone's gonna walk up and be like, okay, you're ready for your life to be this way? Let's go.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, well, I start doing that now, and then my life will eventually be that way. But I think like mentally, yes, absolutely. Just be like, dude, I'm him.
Delusion. Healthy delusion.
Yeah. You kind of got to be a little delusional, you know? But I don't know. It's like, fuck everybody else, really.